There's more Battlestar coming next season, but it's a while off, so you're just going to have to be patient. But to fill the deep, aching void left by the show hiatus, the good folks at Space have put together a forum to ease your pain.
I think you have a theory.
Yeah. Honestly, we saw her ship blow up. How does that happen?
He's got to finally get up there and say, I am finally man, my testicles have finally dropped, and then boom, he's gone.
Let the record show I started this.
And that's it for me. Again.
He's got to truly be redeemed, and then
boom! Say what?
I don't need every character to have the same bloody arc.
Oh my giddy aunt.
He's wanted to be special for so long, you can't actually let him.
You motherfucker!
I feel like I'm still scarred by Galactica 1981.
Hey everyone, this is Fandom Forum, and I'm your host, Teddy Wilson. Tonight, we're talking Battlestar Galactica. And here to lay down all their crazy fracking thoughts on the series are Liana Kerzner, producer, writer, and co-host of Enid Red's Night Party, Seamus Reagan, host of CTV's Canada AM, Stuart Parker, graduate candidate in history at the U of T, and Christie St. Martin, writer for the LA Times Online. So first off, thanks for coming. We're all huge fans of the show, so let's dive right in. Battlestar's gone into mid-season hiatus, but in typical BSG form, the mid-season finale left us with a ton of questions. So let's open it up. What do you think, Liana?
I think my strongest thought is I'm so sick of fracking cliffhangers at this point. I'm just done. They have no magic for me anymore. We know they're coming. Story, please.
Yeah, Seamus, what did you think of this episode?
I'm just a little worried that Charlton Heston's going to come around the corner with a beard saying, damn them all. You know, I'm a little dubious right now, I have to say. This is kind of charted territory, you know? I want the military drama back. That's what I want back.
Yeah. Absolutely. Stuart, what were your thoughts?
Well, I'm here for the crazy religious drama, so obviously I'm pretty happy. Every episode that goes by, this show gets more cosmologically Mormon, and on top of that, finally the Liana character really moved forward, and I think that was really crucial. That this patriarchy theme they've been sitting on, they're finally doing something with, and it's long past time.
Cool. Christie, episode 10?
Wasn't long enough. Desperate Housewives gets 2 hours. BSG gets barely 45 minutes. Crying. Sad lady right here.
It feels like we were shortchanged, but there was a lot packed into this episode. It was like 4 in 1. And of course, some of the most heavy-hitting and anticipated moments came when the final 4 each stepped out of the toaster closet. Let's take a look.
I am one of the final 5.
They're Cylons, just like the EXO.
I came back with Deanna to be with my people.
Sam.
It's true, Dad.
Amazing, and you know, for me, one of the most poignant moments came a few scenes later. Adama on the floor, drunk, devastated, his son comforting him, and just completely overwhelmed about the fact that Ty is a Cylon.
It's a fracking joke. There is no words.
I think emotionally it rang true. I mean, I think that, you know, we deserve that reaction. They deserve that reaction. This is still, I mean, this is still sensational stuff. I mean, you know, this is treason at the highest order.
I guess what I found useful is that there's been so long that they've been working with a Cylon, so long that they've been working with Sharon. I think that many of them are not going to have the kind of profound reactions that we're going to get out of Adama. That Adama's reaction is based on knowing Ty for 30 years and the implications of that.
Wow, Christie, what did you think of the reveal?
I agree exactly with him. I basically think that what we saw was what would be the emotional reaction of the show. I think that's what we sympathize the most with is Adama.
I thought Rosalind's reaction to Tori was perhaps even stronger on a subtler level than Adama's was, because she was kind of like...
You had no idea, did you? No.
I mean, you're President Rosalind. You can't fall apart. You can't go back to your room and punch a mirror and drink.
The final 5 are here, in my view, in order to get humans comfortable with the fact that the Cylons will succeed them, not comfortable with the idea of some kind of union between these two groups. So I think that we can see this thing fraying from the very beginning.
Well,
this
it's
is going to
better
be a
because this is
short-lived
mid-season.
alliance.
If all I've got left is, you know, reconciliation and hands across the water, then we're on all.
Hey, they're
a lot of
not
trouble.
even on Earth yet.
I think it's kind of interesting. We're still talking about the Cylons as a monolith and the humans as a monolith, and it's not anymore.
Can I ask about Cavill, though? I mean, why is he so scared of knowing who the Final Four are?
He
What's the
doesn't
deal
want to go
there?
back to Quantum Leap.
That's pure insanity.
If this is as Mormon as I think it is, he's the Satan figure, and that's Satan's job. You oppose mortality and free will because you think you can save everyone without mortality or free will. And the Final Four are already lost to him because they've already fallen into
So
mortality.
Cavill's Satan?
Cavill is
This is
constantly reminding them
interesting.
that they are machines,
This
that
is
they are
interesting,
programmed,
yeah.
that this is what they're supposed to be doing, and they're not supposed to stray from that.
See,
and I think that he is that reminder that, hey, we are machines. We are not humans.
It's been a long time coming. Earth.
Coming up after the break, they finally found the 13th colony. So now what? Because this is Battlestar, anything can happen. And as the cast themselves will tell you, it's no ordinary show. We'll see you in 2.
I think a lot of people are very grateful that they tuned in and that they started to have an interest in trying to figure out what this was.
It was quite a gift to be asked to be part of something that was this simply true.
Crew of Galactica. People of the fleet. Today, our journey is at an end. We have arrived at Earth.
Welcome back. Thanks to the Lords of Kobol, that ragtag BSG fleet finally made it to Earth. But, of course, everything's up in the air and there are tons of questions. What year is it in relation to present day? Where on Earth are they? And is anyone else there? What does everyone think? Let's start with you, Stuart.
Well, I think there are 2 possibilities for where they are, and one of them is not Earth. They could be on Phaeton, the planet that becomes the asteroid belt in both Mormon theology and in Soviet science. That's supposedly a planet occupied by a high civilization that destroyed itself and destroyed the planet. The other option is that we're on pre-Adamite Earth, because again, in Mormon theology, there's a race called the pre-Adamites who get to Earth first, who destroy themselves, and it's Adam and his people who arrive and fix up the Earth and make it good, and Adam's very implicated in the creation. So we could be on Phaeton. You'll notice they didn't show any of the geography of Earth as they zoom in to occupy the planet.
Interesting.
Or it could be the pre-Adamite Earth.
I feel like I'm 10 years old again, and I'm still scarred by Galactica 1981.
So do you think there's anybody else there? If it is, whenever it is, do you think they'll come across other people when
I hope not. If it becomes some sort of underground thing, I'm out of there.
That's the back
I'm
of
sorry.
the-
Like, if that happens, I'm goodbye.
That's the back of the Kraken plane on Lost. Like, that's too much for me.
So, assuming that there's no one there, and I mean, based on the clip at the end of the show, it looked pretty devoid of life. How are they going to rebuild society? I mean, is it going to be human and Cylon together? What do you think?
I think they're going to form into 2 opposing factions, as always happens in Mormon sacred history, and one of 2 things will happen. They'll either completely annihilate each other, or one faction will live and the other will die. So I don't see any sort of partnership-based society, and it'd be on the very short list of things that would disappoint me.
Would be mixed? Would those factions be mixed to Cylons and humans?
They would each be dominated by one of the
resistance.
groups. I think you'd get a couple of, 80-20 societies.
I think it'd break down into more. I think we're almost getting a new diaspora, 12 tribes of whatever you want to call it.
So are we seeing kind of the beginning of what was the end before, the formation and the founding of the 12 Lords of Kobol on Earth, do you think?
If you think about it as a series of emanations, you had the humans created by the Lords of Kobol, who were probably just like the humans are now, and the humans that were created by the Lords of Kobol were probably undifferentiated and gradually became the humans that they are now. And now it's time for this new group to lift off. So I think what we're seeing is the retelling of this, and if we look at the call signs, I think this gives us some very strong hints of who the Lords of Kobol are going to be.
That's interesting. And I got to ask, they've been searching for Earth all this time. They get there. They're obviously ecstatic when they're still up in space. But they get down to Earth. Why do they all look so fracking forlorn when they take their first steps?
Do you remember when the episode when they were looking for food, they had a food shortage, and the people that were like really hungry were expecting once they got crossed that there would be a restaurant, a dine, like the food would just be served to them. That's not how it is. And it's kind of the same thing with Earth. You have this vision of what it's going to be like, and it's not holding up to their expectations. And there's nothing you can do about that. It's not just, oh, we have to get along. We have to rebuild civilization, figure out everything else from the start.
The question is, where do we go from here?
You know, of all the remaining questions, and there's a lot, one of the biggest is whether the Human-Cylon alliance will actually hold. We'll delve into that when we come back. But first, the cast tell us how the feelings on set have changed, knowing that soon they'll all be saying goodbye.
There's a sense of sadness that will be done, but there's also kind of a motivation and a drive to really make this one important.
It's the human element of knowing something's coming to an end, and you are suddenly more present than you've been, perhaps, knowing that this is it, so be honest.
All this has happened before. But it doesn't have to happen again. Not if we make up our minds to change.
All right. I'll release your crew.
Welcome back. That handshake was a huge milestone in the human versus Cylon struggle. And the big question, of course, will the warm, fuzzy feelings between them, you know, stay intact? What do you think, Christie?
Very unlikely, mostly because we love drama, so it's going to get a little shaken up a couple more times, I think, and maybe hopefully settle down. Because we have to put an end to this, right? We only got like a season left.
Seamus, is this unity here to stay?
Oh, I want Admiral Kane to come back now and start a fracking mess. I love Michelle Forbes. I want her back. I don't know. I mean, obviously, for the sake of drama, no, it's not going to. But I go along with your theory. I think that Cylon and Human now, I think that that's gone. I think that the alliances will be new and they'll be mixed.
Well, blowing up the resurrection hub, that was the point where the lines went, nope, not anymore. They're not machines. They always call them toasters and robots. They're not.
Now, what about the new, we also, of course, in this episode learned that there's going to be a new Cylon baby between Six and Ty. What are the implications of that? I mean, now Six has shagged Baltar, and Ty, is Baltar jealous? What does this baby mean? Well, Seamus?
I don't know. I just, hearing the words frack and shag in the same sentiment, I mean, we'll wait and see. What I find really interesting, too, is, you know, getting back to the point of they're not toasters, is that biologically, humans and Cylons together can breed. So, you know, I mean, that's very, very strong biology. So, there again, it gets down to what's the difference.
Well, what about the two hybrid babies, Hera and Nikki? I mean, where are they at? We haven't kind of heard much about them in the last
Poor
little
Nikki
while.
gets no attention at all.
And they show up
Hera's gonna be so damaged.
And again, there's a very clear biblical analog. These are the children of the sons of God and the daughters of men from Genesis 6. So what Genesis would predict is they're going to become heroes. But that's another series away at this point.
I think it harkens back to the fact that the similarities are going to overcome the differences between Cylon and Human. I think that they are no longer going to see each other as monoliths, and this is going to come down to character. And then alliance is formed based on whether or not they feel they have a future together or they don't have a future together.
It's one thing to discredit an adult. It's really hard whether you say it's part machine or human, to discredit a child.
Some of the characters may find this, you know, this abhorrent, you know, that these children themselves. I don't know if they want to get into, you know, infanticide, but you know, who knows? I mean, you know, they've gone to darker places before.
Well, child sacrifice is what happened on Kobol, as we learned in a previous season. So I think that's we may be seeing the explanation for why the Lords of Kobol sacrificed those children before, and why they may have to do it again in their minds.
You know, talking about death and sacrifice, we got to talk about the hybrid statement that Kara Thrace is the harbinger of death. What do you take that to mean, Christie?
I just think that she, again, we're talking about stereotypes of women. She is the top gun female. She's incredibly good at one skill, but everything else she lacks. She's socially inept on being a good girlfriend, a good wife,
because if you don't have a man, you're not happy.
Clearly. Yeah. And it's just, she's so talented as a fighter pilot and a killer. What is she going to do? Like, is she going to join a human resistance against this relationship with the Cylons? Is she going to, you know, be okay with it because of Anders?
Well, the bigger question, what is Starbuck?
Well, she's a resurrected being, if the Mormon theory is correct. She has passed through death into the third stage of existence. There are 3 stages. Cavil's Cylons are in stage 1. Those who the final 4 or final 5 plus the humans are in the second one. They've fallen into mortality. And Starbuck is the resurrection, and she is pointing the very literal way to the end of the human race. The end of the human race is, whether you're going with a Mormon formulation or a Christian formulation, the end of the human race is the resurrection.
But who's her father? We've never been introduced to her father.
Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy?
Where were you going with the "Who's your daddy" comment?
We've never
I'm
been
curious.
introduced to it, and we saw her ship blow up. How does that happen? Like, the humans can't just come back for blowing up.
Yeah, the Cylons weren't supposed to be bald, so I'm lost.
We've never been introduced to it. I think you have a theory.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't before until about a day ago, and I started thinking about it. Ty?
That would be interesting.
Her relationship with Ty is so intense that it's a family relationship.
She'd be the first hybrid because Ty's a Cylon.
Yeah. And it's possible because, hey...
She wants 4 Cylons that are in this fleet.
Now, I've got to say, this is a small studio that we're in right now, but there's definitely one huge elephant in the room, and it's the question that's on the mind of anyone who loves Battlestar. Who's the 5th Cylon? We haven't gone there yet, but we will after the break. The cast themselves will certainly never tell, but a few of them did sit down with us to share what they'll take away from this iconic show.
I'm just so indebted to David Icke and everyone else involved in the show for, giving me a chance, because on paper I wasn't Starbuck.
It's been a big learning curve, and hopefully I'll take away some friendships and relationships that last for the rest of my career and for the rest of my life.
You rejoin your fleet in less than an hour.
Then we will return your final 5 to your 4. There are 4 in your fleet. 4. Where's the 5th? I want the 4 in your fleet.
Okay, wait, can we please talk about the clip we just saw? I mean, I thought all along Deanna and Six were saying that there were 5 in the fleet. But now that they've got a ton of human hostages on the base ship, there's only 4 in the fleet, they're saying. So then who the frack, and more importantly, where the frack is the 5th? Does that mean that one of the humans currently on the base ship is the 5th? We've got Hilo, Baltar, Admiral Adama, and Roslin. What do you think, guys? Seamus?
You just heard her speak. It's Laura Roslin?
No.
Yeah, it's Laura Roslin, and if for no other reason than I want to see Mary do that scene. Can you imagine how marvelous it will be with the full camera on the face, and she reveals she's the 5th? Oh my gosh.
That'd be mind-blowing.
And the Emmy goes to.
It's the worst Cylon ever. She's a cancer patient.
She thinks.
But that makes her quite human, right?
Yeah, but she could have died.
When Laura's speaking in that scene that we just saw, Deanna can't stop smiling. Did you know? It was almost a smirk.
Yeah,
and I can't interpret, that smirk is either one of 2 things. It's either Laura is unconsciously a Cylon and she's looking at her like, oh, you poor thing. Or Laura is consciously a Cylon and she's looking at her and going, ooh, you're good.
I disagree. I think it's Baltar, and I have a reason. And
I hope not.
No, it goes right back to the original miniseries, the original TV movie, and the beginning, the credits of every show. It's that scene when Caprica just gets, demolished, and Six is shielding him with her anemic little anorexic body as a nuclear wind blows through his apartment, shatters all his windows. You don't walk away from that. And the next thing you see is him with this little tiny dainty cut on his forehead scrambling for a ship.
They can't make Baltar. They can't do it. Because
why not?
He has wanted to be special for so long. You can't actually let him.
Stuart, the 5th? Who's the 5th?
The 5th, in my view, has got to be one of the Adamas, and that's just because of a religious determinism thing. I haven't deduced this from the show. It's just that in order for my theory to fly, it has to be one of the 2 Adamas, and so I'm just going to stick with that. But I don't feel inspired in that choice, and I don't feel highly interested in that choice because it seems predictable to me.
Oh, I think we're all going to be wrong.
But well, if we end up being wrong, I have less of a chance of getting an article out of it, but I will be more satisfied as a viewer.
Well, let me ask you this. Now that we know through Six and Ty that a Cylon can impregnate another Cylon, does that open up the possibility of Hilo being the 5th Cylon?
He's always been a pervy Cylon fancier, maybe, I don't know.
Which would, of course, make one of the hybrids not a hybrid at all.
I would suggest that only a mortal Cylon can do that. I don't think any Cylon can do that.
Let's talk about God for a second, though.
Let's talk about God.
Who or what do you think God is? I mean, does God speak through the hybrid? Is God some unknown program?
I have a funny fan fiction who is God explanation. It's the original guy who Gaius Baltar is modeled after. He created the Cylons, created one in his own image, so Baltar all along has been worshipping himself. It's perfect.
So Baltar's God. Who do you think we're going to lose in the next season? Who's going to make it to the end, and who are we going to lose? Stuart?
I think by the end of the last episode, there will be no non-Cylons left.
Wow.
No. Wow. I think we'll lose Baltar.
I want to kill Baltar
Yeah.
bad. I
Yeah.
want him to have that moment where he finally stops being a bloody coward.
Yeah.
No, that moment will
Baltar's
never
not
come.
gonna
If
go.
he
No, he's
actually
got to.
steps up, that would be so wrong.
Yeah. No, he's got to. He's got to truly be redeemed. He's got to truly be
No,
revelatory
no.
after faking it for so long. He's got to finally get up there saying, I am finally man, my testicles have finally dropped,
that
and
would-
then boom, he's gone.
Let the record show I started this.
I think that if Baltar can go down, continuing to just shamelessly plead for his own life until he dies, that's true to Baltar. I don't need every character to develop. I don't need every character to have the same bloody arc.
I want all your theories on how this series is going to end. What do you think? Open it up. Give me your wackiest thoughts. Christie?
I think there's going to be a group that wants to get along. I think there's going to be a resistance from a Cylon resistance. I think there's going to be a human resistance. And I think it's not going to end pretty. I think that it's going to be in conflict, and they're just going to leave us guessing.
Wow, Seamus, how the frack are they going to wrap all of this up?
You know, I don't really understand. You know, on the storyline front of it, I really don't know where they're going to go with this. I do suspect, though, that even though they're canceling this series, they will open it up to the idea of another 2-hour movie.
Yeah, yeah, it's not going to be a final ending. I know how I'd like it to end. I know how I think it should end, but I don't think that is how it's going to end, and I'm really scared.
It's amazing. Stuart, what do you think? We know you think all of the humans will be gone. What else do you think will happen at the end?
I think we're looking at a war because I think this is our creation myth. This is not post-apocalyptic Earth. They are explaining who we are, where we're from, and how we used to be Cylons.
Why can't it be the Book of Revelations? That's the name of the episode, is Revelations.
Because I think this much more strongly reads to me as a creation myth than an end of humanity myth.
You're saying by the end no humans will be left, it will only be Cylons and hybrids, but it's not an end of humanity myth?
Exactly, because we're Cylons. We think we're humans, but we're Cylons. That, I believe, is the point of the show.
What do you guys think about that? Do you think we're Cylons?
Do you hear that noise? Do you hear it too?
Yeah, it's all along the watchtower.
What's that music? Oh wait, that's just my iPod.
Well, some pretty crazy ideas and some certainly mind-fracking theories indeed. I want to thank all of you for joining us and everyone at home for tuning in. And we're going to leave you with the cast of Battlestar Galactica and their thoughts on an alternative ending to the show. Good night, and so say we all.
My perfect ending would be a closing shot on Felix in a sort of bacchanalian orgy.
Oh,
Men and women and creatures of the forest.
That's the thing is you can make it like television that goes on forever by just segue into another show.
Well, I was already thinking if we landed on Earth and it was like Battlestar Galactica 1980.
They could land Happy Days with a shark jumping on water skis.
I was like, Derek, what are you doing here? Capes? Nice, we should do that.
They could land in a cartoon world and they could all be part of the Simpsons.
I don't think I'd wrap it up all in a sweet ending.
We're like entering the atmosphere and then, you know, the US president blows us out.
I want it to end in true classic Battlestar form. Big question mark. Blow everyone's socks off.